Welcome to Behind the Fence. This is a show about life in the Sierra foothills where we sit down with community leaders, local legends, and people who call Mariposa County home. I'm your host, Rick Blaylock. If you enjoy these types of conversations with those who shape our community and love telling stories, I hope you'll follow our shows, share it with someone who loves this area as much as I do. Today, as you see, we're not in my little home office that we've recorded a lot of these. We are actually, if you don't recognize it, we're in the Yosemite Climbing Museum. And I'm actually here, I'm super honored to be here with Ken Yager. Ken is the president and founder of the Yosemite Climbing Association, which he launched in 2003. And over the years, he's collected more than 10,000. Is it more than that now?
More than well over,
over 10,000 pieces of climbing history, a lot of which you can see here at the museum here in town. And so this is the Yosemite Climbing Museum. It's right here in Mariposa at the intersection of Highway 49 and 140, otherwise locals call it the four-way stop in town. He's also the organizer of Yosemite Facelift, which is now the largest volunteer cleanup event in any national park, right? Not just Yosemite.
Correct.
Any national park, which has collected over 1.2 million pounds of trash has been removed from Yosemite. Along the way, I'll note that Ken has been recognized with the David R. Brower, am I saying that right? Hopefully saying that right. David R. Brower Conservation Award from the American Alpine Club. Ken, I'm just super honored that you take the time to meet with me today and let me come in and take a look around. I wanted to start with a personal thing, if that's all right. So,
sure.
My family was originally from the Stockton area when I was born. And my dad was very, very much into rock climbing. So I have a couple of just fun photos that I thought I'd share of his. So that's me when I was, and I'll put it up on the video later. That's me at, I don't know, 6 years old with my dad and climbing somewhere. And then, one with him and his buddy. I don't know who that is. Maybe you know him. I have no idea. But one of the main reasons that we moved here, I called my mom to verify, was just because of climbing. My dad was very passionate about rock climbing, so growing up, that was something that me and my brothers followed him along with. So just an interesting connection. And like I said, I'm super honored as somebody who's very well known in the climbing community around here.
Well, thank you. I don't recognize him, but it's pretty cool though.
Yeah, I just wanted to share because it's just a personal connection to climbing that eventually brought my family here. My mom's now been a nurse, John C. Fremont, for 20 plus years. And, 3 out of the 4 brothers still live here and call it home. So if it wasn't for climbing, I don't know if we would have found our way up here. So pretty awesome. But you also weren't originally from this area. Is that correct?
That's correct. I was born in Berkeley.
Okay.
And then when my younger brother was born, I think he's maybe 3 weeks old, we moved to La Jolla.
Okay, La Jolla.
And my father was a graduate student, physics, there at
I don't make hold those.
Oh, yeah, no worries.
Just want to show them off for a minute. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was advertising
no,
for you.
It's fine.
But anyway, so my father was a physics graduate student down there, and he also did side work for Scripps Institute and stuff like that.
Fantastic.
And then we moved, I think, in 1968, just before the winter of 68, 69, we moved to Davis. He got offered a associate professorship there, and then he worked there until he retired.
Gotcha.
And as a physics professor, he did a lot of experiments working with proton accelerators.
Okay.
And he discovered what's called the Dow neutrino, or his experiment recorded it, and it's a 10th particle of mass or something like that.
Whoa,
I don't really understand all of it, but I grew up around the dinner table hearing it. And I went to all the different proton accelerators around the world. I've been to the one in Geneva, Switzerland at first.
Okay.
Yeah, which is...
You talking about the collider? Or the...
Yeah, the colliders.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the CERN was that one. And then I lived there for 4 months in 1972. In Geneva, Switzerland, and then they built one in the United States, or he got his experiment moved to there, I'm not quite sure.
Wow.
And then he did all his experiments after that in Fermilab, which is over in Batavia, Illinois, Chicago area.
So you're not into that work, I'm assuming, as you grew up. Well, how did we go from particle collisions to rock climbing? Where did that
Well, actually, both my parents divorced and remarried. 3 out of the 4 were professors, so I lived a very academic life: math, physics, and chemical engineering, and all of them very well known in their field. But they were the most supportive of all my parents too, of my climbing. But I got introduced to climbing when I lived in southern France in a place called Aix-en-Provence. In 1971, I went to 6th grade there. My grandmother pulled me out of school here, put me down there in a French public school. I didn't know a word of French,
Right.
and it took a while. But anyway, I was pretty fluent by the end of it, and I actually graduated 6th grade in France. And while there, we would do things on the weekend. And we did this little boat ride out of Cassis out to the west and around the point, and then there's all these giant limestone cliffs over the ocean, and there are people climbing on them, and with ropes and all that stuff, and I'm just like, holy crap! I didn't know grown-ups did this, and
Right.
I didn't know you could do it safely or with ropes. So I was instantly intrigued. I was quite a climber, adventurous. I got in a lot of, not trouble, but scared the crap out of my parents a
Oh, I
lot.
bet.
Well,
Yeah.
I'd disappear for 2 or 3 hours at a time
Wow.
in other countries and stuff
Yeah,
too.
a little,
So yeah,
like I said, it's a little different than climbing a tree too tall.
I know.
You know.
At like 2 to 4 years old, I especially would wander off. But anyways, so I was intrigued by the climbing, and as soon as I got back, and this would have been the summer of 1971, so 55 years ago in a few months. And it will have been the first time that I tried climbing, instantly loved it. And then I went anytime I could with the professors at Davis, UC Davis.
Gotcha.
And there's a mountain shop in town too. So I eventually met people that worked there and people that shopped there. And we had a climbing club too that I started going to at a very young age. And so I met a
Fantastic.
lot of people. So that's and then I didn't do my first visit to Yosemite until a year later, but I've been climbing for a year.
Okay, so you were already into climbing.
Yeah.
You come into Yosemite and
Yeah. Prior to that, I'd only climbed in the Tahoe area
okay.
and on buildings around.
Yeah.
I got in a lot of trouble climbing buildings in Davis because they have 2 police forces there. But
Okay. Yeah.
anyway, that's another story.
Sure.
But anyway, I went climbing and camping for the first time in 1972, and and it was with my dad's best friend who ended up running off with my mom later, and became my stepfather. So, and he was a climber. Anyway, it's confusing as heck. So anyway, we did this camping trip, and I went climbing with Steve, who was going to be my stepfather.
Gotcha.
My dad had tried climbing. He's more of a hiker than a climber. And then, so I did some climbing for the first time, and there were some other professors that joined us on that trip.
Gotcha.
And God, I just fell in love with Yosemite as soon as I saw it. And then on the way out, I made my parents, because suddenly you're driving by El Cap, and suddenly
Right.
you're underneath it, and you're going, "Holy crap!"
It's up there.
Look how
Yeah.
steep it is,
Massive.
how big it is. So I asked them to stop, and I ran up to the base to touch it and look up, and
So they pulled the car over and you jumped
they
out,
waited for me.
jogged
Yeah,
through the woods up to the
yeah,
base, and just to
yeah.
take a look up. Did you start
Yeah.
climbing it a little bit when that?
Oh no, I just touched it and looked up, and then vowed that I was going to climb it.
Okay.
And
And how old were you when that happened?
I was 13.
13.
Yeah.
So then I read online that you ended up moving to Yosemite at 17. Is that
Correct.
right?
Yeah. In 1976, December 6th, 1976.
Gotcha.
It was a drought winter. 3 days later was the infamous airplane crash, though I didn't know it at the
Yeah,
time.
I'd like to talk
But-
about that maybe in a little
Yeah,
bit. We
yeah,
hear about
yeah,
that. But so you moved to what? Were you, was there work or was it just the interest
Oh,
in
no,
climbing that brought
no.
you there?
Just the climbing. I wanted to climb El Cap, ever since that visit at 13. And then I did a lot of trips. I tried to do overnight climbs with my stepfather. We never made any of them. I tried Half Dome, Northwest Face of Half Dome once or twice. Didn't make it. Tried Washington Column a couple times. Didn't make it. Tried Lost Brother. Didn't make it. But each time I learned. Oh, and I tried climbing the Forbidden Wall with Warren Harding, but we got snowed off, and so
Right.
I didn't make that. And so anyway, I tried all these walls, but so, and I've been climbing in Yosemite a bit, so I had, a fair amount of experience, but I always wanted to climb El Cap, and it was important to me to do it. I thought I was going to Vietnam. I grew up there in that era, so I missed the draft, but I didn't know that as a young kid,
Okay.
and so that
Okay.
made me a wild kid. And it
Gotcha.
made me want to get all my experiences before I was 18 because I thought I was going to end up in
I see. So you
Vietnam.
thought you were going to Vietnam.
And I wasn't going to kill anybody, you know what I
Right.
mean? I
Yeah.
might, who knows? I didn't think I would. And so I thought, man, I'm going to be dead at 18.
Might
So,
as well get.
yeah, so
They say sow your wild oats, but kind of just get it out of your system, I guess. If
I
that
just
was
tried to live life to the fullest, I
sure.
guess.
Yeah.
And climbing really gave me a focus because a lot of my schoolmates aren't here anymore. Either, yeah, they got into drugs so heavy that, yeah, they're vegetables now, or they ended up in jail, or got into crime, or committed suicide. I mean, a lot of my generation had a lot of
Struggled.
problems. Yeah, they
Yeah.
struggle. And,
Yeah.
every generation does, but makes me kind of a little worried about, some of the kids growing up now
I
with
think so.
COVID and
Oh yeah.
everything else going on.
Absolutely.
That kind of stuff affects a kid for a lifetime.
It
So
does.
because of that, I just went all in on climbing, and so I always wanted to climb El Cap.
And you did,
Yeah,
correct?
I did.
How old were you when you first?
Well, I tried it about a week after I moved up here, so it was probably the middle of December. Drought winter, shortest days of the year.
Right.
Stupid,
Yeah.
but I
I
don't
don't know.
know. But I found another idiot to go with me, and that being Mike Corbett, and he was living in camp. My father brought me up, dropped me off into Camp 4 with all
Okay.
my stuff.
Camp 4. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was called Sunnyside Campground
Yeah.
then, but we all called it Camp 4. So then he drove back home to go to work, dropped me off. I was 17 years old, and I was there about a week, and I hooked up with Mike Corbett, was the only one that was even interested in climbing El Cap.
That time of year. Or
Well,
at all.
anytime,
Really.
anybody that, yeah, felt like that was a goal. I mean, with climbing, not everybody wants to spend that much time on a wall or high, or
Yeah.
or it's a little more dangerous to probably,
Right.
and back then anyway. And so we were, anyway, it was about a week after I moved there, maybe 10 days. We tried climbing El Cap about on the shortest days of the year. And it was sunny and cold at night, but it wasn't that bad.
Mm.
Just the days were so short, and you have shitty headlamps back
Right.
then,
Yeah. I didn't
and we
have.
didn't fix. And so we went up. I think we spent 2 nights on the wall. First, I made it to whatever, Sickle Ledge, and then we didn't quite make Gold Tower. We slept in sitting in butt bags, I think, all night.
So you
Yeah,
sat up and slept
yeah. We
on the
didn't we didn't
side.
make the ledges because we
Okay.
didn't have. Anyway, we had headlamps. Anyway, it was different back then.
Right. The technology's
Yeah.
definitely changed. I'm
Oh,
sure we'll get to that.
it's
So
changed
you it
tremendously.
took you 2 nights or 3 days,
Yeah.
2 nights to try to get up, and it didn't.
Well, we were only about a third of the way up, right, and at the start of the third day. So it was looking like it was going to take us 6 days. And anyway, so we just kind of chickened out and
Yeah.
decided to rappel. We dropped our haul bag, but the problem was our ropes were short and it was terrifying. So
Well,
it was really close to going over the end of our ropes and stuff like that. So I learned a lot and realized I need more practice. So back to answer your question, when I first climbed El Cap, it wasn't until later in 1977, in my first year there, and I did it 4 times when I was 18 years
four
old.
times,
Not
18
that
years old.
first year I lived in Yosemite,
Incredible.
but I also climbed Leaning Tower and a column a couple different times, and maybe something else, maybe Liberty
Incredible.
Cap or something.
I'm sure you get asked this a lot. The infamous question is, how many times has Ken summited El Capitan?
Well,
The
it's our.
number I heard when I researched was like 60-ish, but I've heard
Yeah,
you
it's
also
about 60, 65.
incredible.
I'm guessing because I was a climbing guide and I'd guide El Cap. It's 3 to 6 times a year. I loved doing it, and it was all over the thing. So anyway, that was close to 50, probably guiding, and then if you add up the others, but I never really worry about. There's certain ones that are super memorable, especially the first ones you
Of
do,
course,
and
yeah.
then after that, it's I don't know. Especially as a guide, I just did things over and over, and so they don't have as much
Yeah,
meaning.
it's
You
you
know what
kind
I
of it's
mean?
just another day's work almost at that
Kinda,
point. That's
yeah.
incredible.
But it was 5, 6 days
Right,
work.
another week's work, I
Yeah,
guess. But
but
so I'm interested. First of all, that's incredible to have anybody to know anybody that's
oh,
summited El
there's
Capitan.
a lot of people that climbed a lot more than I have.
Sure, but
Yeah,
60 times that's no small
and
feat or
I
more.
haven't done it in 15 years now. So
Well, it's never too
yeah,
late. We
I
can get
know.
back up
I just know how much it hurts.
Sure, sure. I'm curious. So when you first moved into Camp Four, I know there was controversy. The people that were staying there called it Camp Four. It was officially known as Sunnyside.
Hmm.
Is that correct? It's still known as Camp Four to this day.
Correct.
I'm I'm interested if you could share a little about what the culture was like there of a bunch of guys and gals just obsessed with climbing like yourself and
Yeah, well, and to answer that question, I mean, I can only answer it for when I was there. It's obviously changed a lot over the years and stuff, but I can give you a little history of Camp 4. Initially, you were allowed to drive in there, and so the
hmm,
1960s climbers had their own little camps they would set up, and they might come up for a few months at a time, or maybe they'd set up the camps and they'd go down and work, and then be up on weekends to their camp. And
hmm,
in particular, people like Glenn Denny, Jeff Beck, Royal Robbins had his own camp, and
gotcha.
everybody had their own camp. And but you could drive and park anywhere in there. Then they made it a walk-in campground and they called it Sunnyside. I think that's when they got rid of the cars, but I'm not
Okay.
100% sure on that. But then it was Sunnyside Walk-in Campground. And so when I got dropped off up there by my dad in 76, it was
It was
Sunnyside
Sunnyside.
Walk-in Campground, but all the climbers still called it Camp 4. I don't know about the others there. So I moved in when I was, tail end of my 17th year, and there wasn't very many people there. There was two camps in the middle that were kind of adjoining of about 6 people hanging out, 6 or 7. Then there was a rescue camp down on the end, and there was only a few people in there. Jack Dorn, Warner Braun were the two full timers that I remember.
Hmm.
There were other visitors that would come
Sure.
up at times,
Come and
stay a little
go.
while, but
Yeah.
as far as living full time, and so I moved in and got the one of the first campsites on the left, just past what was the gas station. There was a
Gotcha.
gas station
Okay.
there,
Yeah, not anymore.
and there was also beyond the gas station, right adjacent to it, was an electrical substation, which they took out quite a while back
Gotcha.
too. But
Okay.
so I was just past the electric substation. It was all fenced off, and then on the left, and
So you set up camp. This is
yeah,
where you're essentially living now.
I had a big
Um,
circus tent. Yeah.
yeah, and I'll note if anybody's interested, because this is extremely intriguing history to me, especially local history. I'll give a shout out to the documentary that's pretty well known, I would think at this point,
Mm.
called Valley Uprising, which you contributed a ton of material for and are featured in it a little bit as well, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
I am. I helped with the history and contacting people.
absolutely.
I think for 6 years it took.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
excellent documentary. I watched half or two-thirds of it before my kids need other things to
And
do, but I'm hoping to finish. We watched it last night. You can find it on Amazon and other sources now. But it's an excellent documentary, and one of the things that jumped out to me was the cultural clash, I guess I would say, between the what the documentary, I won't call them that, but the documentary referred to as dirtbag
hmm.
climbers and local law enforcement or people that are just trying to show up and have their nice peaceful quiet little time, and maybe those two kind of butted heads. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and I put a lot of thought into that, and because what's odd is, like in the 40s or 30s, 40s, and 50s, even into the 60s, a lot of the climbing community was quite close to the Yosemite community, if that
Okay.
makes sense, including the Park Service.
Okay.
And so, what would have caused that breakaway? And that was, in my opinion, not only the 60s culture,
Of course. Yeah.
but in particular, I think it was the riots.
Okay.
So the riots, I think it was 1970 when that happened.
Okay. Can you,
And that's a bunch of hippies,
they
and
came into the valley,
they were
correct?
in the valley. There were a bunch of people staying there. I think they were in what is now Yellow Pine, but they were staying at the Muir campground, and maybe others came in and they started hanging out in Stoneman's Meadow, and they wouldn't leave. So, nowadays it would just be you're trampling the meadow and stuff.
They
Yeah,
kick you out and find you, and yeah.
and all that stuff. But anyway, they just were gathering there, and they were doing a lot of drugs. I heard a lot of LSD
Sure.
and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And so they went in on horseback and batons
Okay.
to break it up, right?
The
Well, most of the
Park
people,
Service
yeah,
employee
yeah,
or
exactly.
rangers went in.
And it got a little rowdy. I've seen the footage. I did an exhibit with the California Historical Society, and they had video on it, so I've
Oh,
seen
wow.
it. It's out there, and it just gets a little rough, but it's nothing like what we'd see these days. But it scared the Park Service, and probably scared everybody actually. And they eventually broke it up. But then after that is when they introduced law enforcement here. They were actually to carry
Okay.
guns. Prior to that, they didn't, and that's my understanding.
So that was the-
that was the impetus that kind of brought
Gotcha.
gun-toting
Gotcha.
law enforcement. And the other thing is that those people that scared them, and obviously, I mean, I'd be scared
Yeah.
crap have 1,000 people
Sure.
mad at me, right?
Yeah.
And starting to get aggressive, and it's terrifying. And so they're the people that they were scared of kind of look like the climbers in the next generation of climbers
Gotcha.
through the 70s. We didn't have a lot of money. We looked like bums, but we were actually athletes in disguise,
Right.
and people they didn't know the difference. So
Okay.
so that kind of created this sort of animosity just based on looks and the class that you look like you're not working here, so
Right.
you've been here a while and your clothes are dirty or whatever, and you need a haircut. So suddenly you're kind of branded as a dirtbag or a useless citizen.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you also, you push back against a climber. Climbers are freaking stubborn. I mean, we can
Sure.
climb El Cap,
Right.
right?
If you can do
5 days, you can do that. You're probably going to hold your ground. So
Mhm.
they'd hold, so there was this kind of push back and forth. And
Tension was.
hey, yeah.
Yeah.
But it wasn't all totally tension. I mean, it was there, but there was also this kind of, it was almost like a cat and mouse game.
Okay.
And so there,
In terms of like catching people that were.
well,
doing
look,
things they
okay,
weren't supposed to.
imagine, first of all, there are a lot less people then. Imagine,
Right.
okay, you work in law enforcement. Okay, there's not a lot of, pardon my language, a lot of shit going on.
Sure.
You
Yeah,
know what
yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
So you got to kind of find it. I mean, there's people doing drugs and stuff,
Yeah.
but you have that everywhere. And so it became maybe a little bit of a challenge to them to get these guys, and it became a little bit of a challenge to us to not flaunt, but
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
like get away.
Sure.
And it wasn't that hard. You just
Right.
run into the rocks,
Yeah.
and they won't follow you because
You probably have more
you're pretty.
endurance than the average
Yeah, or
ranger. No
we can
disrespect to them, but
we can travel better. Well,
sure.
nowadays that's changed. So back then, you're right. A lot of them, some were fit, but most of them weren't.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, you could outrun them. You
Yeah.
could outdo a lot of things. And I also, I put other thought into it. And why did it continue to stay that way? So that's part of it. And the other part too, I realized, and I talk about in Belly Uprising, is that a lot of these guys, they wanted, they were jealous. Okay, so they're jealous of these guys that apparently have an easy life and they're not working. We're just willing to go with less money and less food.
So you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that the rangers or the law, or even
Yeah,
some
or security,
tourists,
yeah,
we're jealous
or
because these guys are working
Yeah.
40 hours a week or whatever, commuting, and
yeah.
bills and mortgages, and
And we got this carefree
you guys
lifestyle.
are just hanging out, and
So that's, I think, and not for everybody, but
Sure.
I'm sure that played a little part of it. And the other one we had was that, we generally had the girlfriends
Okay.
to them,
Yeah.
and so there's jealousy there too, I think. So
Yeah.
anyway, and I see how it did, and you kind of push back and forth just like any other. And that always really bothered me when I first moved up here was all the cliques. And
Sure.
it reminded me of high school and going,
Yeah.
what the heck,
Yeah.
man?
We've done
Ansel
all that.
Adams Gallery won't talk to any other employees.
Okay.
Curry employees won't talk to the Park Service.
Okay.
Everybody
Wow.
stayed to themselves. Even amongst Curry, there was like different levels. Somebody that's been here a long time.
Okay.
There's
Yeah.
different cliques, and it reminded me of high school when you have the smokers and the jocks and the
Yeah.
brainiacs. Everybody wouldn't talk to the other group, and it was like that up here. And so I didn't care for that, so I've always had friends in all the different groups, and
That's
so
great.
and anyway, that's always been important, I think, to break that down.
I think another big event that I would say that happened that was pretty famous and well known during that time. You mentioned it earlier, was the plane crash
Oh yeah,
that occurred, which is I would say, somewhat humorous story despite the
yeah.
tragedy.
Well,
Anything you could share about, of course,
that didn't help. Probably the
this right?
this
Can you tell me a little
rivalry.
bit about what that was or what?
Well, 3 days, apparently 3 days after I had moved up here, with December 9th, 1976, there was a plane missing, and that was expected. The DEA was waiting for it in Reno, and it never showed up. And then probably 3, 4 weeks later, some people in the backcountry, locals, found an airplane wing, wrote obviously been a crash, and they wrote down the number of the wing and reported it, and the DEA's like, aha, so there's,
The DEA.
yeah,
So there was some
yeah,
stuff in that plane.
yeah, so they were
Right.
waiting for the plane anyway, so they knew something was up. Anyway, that's my understanding. And so then the Rangers went up there at first, and we all kind of heard about it because we saw the helicopter coming down
Yeah,
with
something's
bales
going
in
on.
it. Well, we could watch them
Oh,
unloading
the
the
bales.
bales.
Okay.
Then they drive them up to the jail. I mean, it's a small town.
Right.
Everybody knows everything. You think you can hide something up there? Well, I got news for you.
You can't.
You might as well just
So
admit
it was up
everything.
in the higher country, right? At Lake Merced, is that correct?
Lower Merced
Lower
Pass
Merced.
Lake. Lower
Okay.
Merced Pass Lake. There's a lot of different Merced Lake
Excuse me.
things
Okay.
up
Yeah.
there, but that's the one that it did crash in. And so anyway, the Rangers were up there. They got snowed on. It was cold winter,
Sure.
and the lake was frozen. I think they were dealing with about a foot and a half of ice,
Okay.
and it got eventually to 3 feet thick.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
And as the winter went on, and so they decided they gave up. They had divers and everything, and they were brought what they could down, and they put it in the jail, and it was melting out in there and going through the floorboards down into the firehouse onto their desks and
Really?
stuff. Yeah,
Because it was
it was frozen and then
and then it melted.
yeah, and
Right.
soaking wet, and so
Right.
so as it defrosted, it's like green juice.
Yeah.
It smelled like airplane fuel. Went right down. Anyway,
Sure.
but it's
But I
funny.
understand a lot of the locals, once they caught wind, because like you said, nothing.
Well, we all knew what was going on.
Right.
So what happened was they decided to close the trail and just close the area, and they put this little sign up,
Yeah.
which I got a copy of it
Oh,
right
geez.
behind you on the
I'll
wall.
take a picture and post it. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
and so put the sign on there, and some people started going, I wonder if there's anything left. So I started going up there, and they were finding bales. People were finding bales, and so became this little mini gold rush.
Gold rush, right?
Yeah.
So people hiked up in the snow, cut to the ice,
Yeah.
recovered.
It wasn't deep snow hiking up there, but there was some.
Yeah, that's
But it was cold rivers. I remember going through. We were either lost off the trail or whatever, but I remember wading a little over waist deep in cold water.
I'm sure everybody got a little bit more wealthy and could afford some new climbing equipment maybe after that.
Not everybody. I mean, I did all right. I mean, I went up there while my parents were visiting, or my mom and her,
Sure.
my and my brothers and stepsisters and stuff. And so I just kind of told them, well, I'm going on a climb. And so I had to go in and out as quickly as possible. I did it in 22 hours.
Wow.
But hiked in, second hole, found a bale, split it up, 4 of us,
There you go.
soaking wet, heavy, and hiked all the way to Camp 4 to my tent. But I had no car, and then I had no plan what to do with it.
What
I
do you
mean,
do? Yeah, sure,
it was crazy.
Such an interesting story. Yeah, I think in the Valley Uprising they talk about some people using it and it maybe having some of that gasoline in there and it.
Oh yeah, it would flame up,
Flame
or
up
not
a
all of it would,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, generally towards the outer part of the bale, if
Interesting.
you had more fueling if it was next to the airplane. So they floated all over the lake. When I went up there, there was hundreds of holes in the ice. So
Absolutely wild. So
but
a quick gold rush in the middle of the winter, way
yeah.
up in the high country. That not the type of gold that
I'm
we
glad
heard
I
about in
did it, but
school.
I'd never do it again.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was so terrified afterwards. I was like, "Well, you idiot! You just turned 18. What are you doing this
Like
for?"
worried the DEA is gonna
It,
come rushing in
ah,
and busting all you guys or
well,
something.
then it's wet, and then what do you do with it? And
Yeah,
everybody has some, so
yeah,
it's
yeah.
worthless around
Supply and
here.
demand. Yeah, it's not my scene, but
I
such an
know.
interesting
Well, there
story.
was so much I didn't think ahead on when I did.
Yeah,
I just sort of went along for the ride, and I was like, "Oh shit!"
yeah. That's
But I'm
it's
glad I did. It's
yeah.
an interesting
Well,
story.
it is a super interesting story, and like I said, I'll grab a photo of it and make sure, if that with your permission,
Oh yeah, cool. I've
put that
got
in
pieces
that
of the
part of the
airplane
video.
out back
You
too.
do parts
Oh
of the
yeah,
airplane.
seven
We'll get.
pieces. You have to just come to the museum.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's one
Yeah,
of the reasons why we're here. I'm curious. I think a
yeah,
lot of. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but I also understand that you maybe also had some run-ins with the law yourself, and maybe not officially,
yeah.
but
Not too
I
bad.
heard about a cave potentially.
Yeah, well, I had no run-in with the law with that, but I did live in a cave for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't like a run-in with the law. I just had outstayed my time limit at Camp 4
Okay.
or Sunnyside
Sunny
Campground.
side. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Camp four.
yeah,
It's Camp
Camp
four.
4. It is still Camp 4. But so anyway, I had to go out and I think I moved to North Pines with some friends. And after about a week, they go, wait a minute, you've already been here. You got to leave. And so I
Fun
just moved
place.
into a cave.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fine.
Nothing's gonna stop you
Well,
from
and they'd
getting up
go, "Where are you
and
staying?"
down.
And you go, "Oh, I come in every day."
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Nothing's gonna stop you from climbing those
Well, that's
climbing
all I
walls.
wanted was climbing, and then when I did, with some of the pot I did get, my pack load I could brought out, I traded it straight across for the rest of the climbing gear I needed to climb El Cap, new
Nice.
rope and all this stuff,
Yeah.
and so for me it worked out perfect
Sure.
because that's really all I cared about.
Right. I'm interested. So the photo I showed you of me with my wild
Yeah,
curly hair. That's a story my dad used to tell about how. It was set up to climb the ropes up to a certain point, and I had reached that point, and I was like,
yeah.
"What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "Give me some slack," and I just kept going up anyways, even though I couldn't clip in.
Uh,
So my dad always told this hilarious story, and how risky it was. And I think that's something that I kind of want to talk about. We know everybody's heard and amazing feat Alex Honnold and the climb that he did and the documentary that's there. But um, what do you think? What is it that you think really drives someone to take the risks that they do when they climb
well,
up? Something like that.
I mean, I've done some free solo, and any
Not
climber
even
that
just free solo, just anything. I mean, it's
well,
dangerous no matter what, right?
not
To an extent.
necessarily. It doesn't. I mean, everything's kind of dangerous. It's more that you learn the skills to recognize those dangers, and then it's a matter of navigating through them. If
Okay.
that makes any
It
kind of
does.
sense.
Yeah.
So I think that's why a lot of professors or academics in the old days, for one, they might have had a little more free time, maybe a little more money, so that would help. But also, I mean, if you you look at the earlier climbers like Richard Leonard, the early 1930s climbers. I mean, they took a very scientific approach to climbing.
Interesting. So they're
So
mapping out routes that are more
yeah,
safe
and
or
yeah, and so in other words, if you know what those dangers are, you can identify them and then figure out ways to deal with those dangers. It doesn't feel as bad
sure.
anymore. It's just like you wouldn't first time driving in a car, you wouldn't go out on the freeway in LA,
Right.
right? You know what I
Right.
mean? You got to develop those skills first to where you feel safe enough to.
Gotcha.
And then much like climbing sometimes, I'm a little nervous. I'm a pretty good driver. I've never had an accident.
Sure.
Hopefully it never happens, but it's scary in the city, with the driving in LA
Oh
with a
yeah.
lot of traffic and stuff like that. Well, climbing can kind of be like that too. You're real comfortable to a certain level, and
Right.
then suddenly, I don't really want to spend a lot of time driving in that part. But climbing's like that, and I imagine a lot of sports are that
That's
way,
fair.
especially, more extreme type sports. But the better you know your equipment, the better understanding you have of your risks, a better understanding how to deal with those risks. All those things will help you feel more comfortable.
Great. Is it the adrenaline? Is there some people addicted to that? Is it the feats like we must go to the moon, we must summit this monstrosity? Is it similar to that?
No, not for me. It's not an adrenaline thing. I don't like that feeling. I like feeling in control
Of course,
in
yeah.
unusual places. But also some of it's the kind of the hypnotic beauty, maybe. You know, you're out, you're feeling the wind,
Right.
you're hearing the birds come by, seeing little bugs crawling in and out of the cracks. I mean, there's a whole wildlife up there that people don't even realize exists.
Yeah.
And you're up there and you get solitude. You get, that's getting harder. There's more climbers
A
now,
lot more climbers. Yeah.
but, you know, it's a way to kind of connect with the environment. And the other thing that I like about it is that you are forced to focus. Okay. So you go up and climb El Cap for 5 days, 4 days, 6 days, whatever. All right. And you're climbing up there. It doesn't matter if the rest of your life's falling apart. You're not thinking about it up there.
Okay.
You're thinking about the moment. It allows you to focus. So it's like the best vacation you could ever have in that respect. Unfortunately, now they got cell phones and stuff, so that's sort of changing. People
Yeah,
are
you can't
bringing
escape too much.
recording themselves climbing and stuff. But
Yeah,
there
can't
was
be
a
drones in the
time,
park, but
yeah.
I could imagine somebody
But there
having a
was
drone
a
chasing them up.
but there was a time where you couldn't, you know, you didn't have that stuff. So it was more committing, and it's more also maybe a sense of personal pride.
Hmm.
Okay, so you get into climbing, you know, you're kind of seeing how you go, how you compare to others by doing these climbs that are kind of little test pieces at each step of the way, if that makes sense. So it's a way to kind of test yourself.
Gotcha.
And so it can be very rewarding with that. And the views you get are unbelievable. Imagine it'd be like parachuting, but you're up there all day.
Yeah.
So you can enjoy it. And anyway,
Incredible. Incredible. I appreciate you sharing that. Any close calls that you personally had? Any rock
yeah.
fall or
Oh yeah,
So
I've been
P10
underneath
or
it a
anything
few
like that?
times. I mean, I've taken falls. A lot of time. Oh well, especially if I like putting first ascents up and new routes. So a lot of times I was pretty well protected
Trailblazing.
on it.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
sort of. Yeah, it's just I just was the first one there. It's not like I was anything special, but I was just there at the right time. But yeah, I've had close calls with rocks coming over my head. I remember on El Cap, the third time I climbed on Tangerine Trip, I got lowered out on it was a party of three, so one person had to go out in a super overhanging route. So I'm, 1,500 feet off the ground
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
going out, and I see the sheet that split on my rope, and so I'm jugging the rope, and I got it past there. And it turns out the partner before, actually, it was pretty low down, it was about seventh pitch. So and he had set up a haul system over my brand new lead line, put a hole in the sheet in two spots. You could see the two rope burns in it. So that was, to me, seemed like a close call. But then, I've been climbing. One time I had a goshawk just smack me on the side of the head, came out of nowhere.
Really?
Yeah.
A hawk
Yeah.
hit you in the head as you're
Yeah,
climbing.
it slapped me.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
big
He's
time.
like, you're not supposed to be up
Then he
here.
came out.
What are you
It
doing?
came after me about 5 times. I had to punch it to
Yeah.
get it to go. I'm hanging on and go.
Incredible.
Yeah, I know. It was
You're in
pretty
his
weird.
domain. I mean, to be fair,
Well,
right?
I was. I guess there was one. It was nesting or something.
Mm.
So people were getting attacked on the Upper Falls Trail too, along the
Yeah.
center section. So I was climbing down below that on the wall down below, but I wasn't expecting it. And I was guiding too. So, and I remember to this day, it's like I got up to the anchor and finally after fighting this thing and it finally flew away and I finished. And then I pulled the rope tight. Okay, you're on belay. You ready to come up? And he's like, nope, not coming up. We were done for the day. Scared of
Do
him.
not want to get attacked by the hawk anymore.
They was afraid to leave the ground.
Wow.
But it was pretty funny. I got paid.
I'm
paid
picturing
every-
that in my head. Somebody way up on the pitch.
It's
And,
pretty funny.
fighting
I hit
back.
it hard a few times. Yeah.
You do what you got to do.
Yeah.
What an incredible career! I'm grateful for you sharing. So you've climbed. You said you stopped climbing, or you're still getting out there?
Yeah, I haven't done as much. I probably went about 5 weeks ago was the last time, but I was going once, twice a week up until this summer. Right now, I got a bit of an injury on a wrist, so I did a bunch of concrete work and sort of injured it. So not
So
climbing.
wait, you injured with concrete and not
Oh,
climbing?
yeah. Well, just overused it, so
Yeah,
might be arthritis. I don't know.
yeah.
But anyway, I'm trying to get it to heal. But I'll go
You're
climb.
still getting out there.
Oh yeah, no,
Incredible.
I don't. I plan to climb the rest of my life. I mean, I've been climbing 55 years now, so
So you became 55 years.
yeah,
Incredible. You became a guide as
yeah, for 12 years.
vocationally. Is that correct?
Yeah,
And that kind of helped you. Okay, I can't live in a cave or in a tent forever. I
yeah.
gotta start.
Well,
I gotta be grown up a little bit, or what?
I have to admit I like showers and I like having a
Yeah,
bed
sure.
and stuff. So, I don't think I could. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not going to tell anybody where the cave is in case I ever need it again. But anyway,
Maybe show me sometime. No, I'm kidding.
yeah, no, I
We'll go
showed it
back.
to one TV
Yeah,
program.
yeah.
They followed me out there.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But so you found it as a result of your love and your passion for climbing, the Yosemite Climbing Association.
All right.
Why? Where was the need? What did you feel the need to do that?
Well, getting back to what I mentioned earlier, that climbing gave me a focus during, thinking instead of thinking about Vietnam all the time.
Right.
And so I got into climbing, and so I realized climbing kind of saved my life a bit,
Mm.
or I feel like it did. And I feel it's important to give back, uh, if you're in a position to do so.
And you put yourself in that position to do so.
Yeah, I did not intentionally.
Sure.
I'll tell you in a minute how that all started. But just to finish that thought, if you're a musician, for example, and everybody loves your music, right? I think it's sort of an obligation to share it with people.
Yeah.
Well, I ended up in a position where I ended up with all this historical climbing gear and was probably one of, there's other people that understood what it meant, but not many. But I also understood how important it was, and they entrusted it to me for
So
some
they
odd
were
reason.
letting you have some of the stuff you
They
might see,
gave
and
it to me.
and
Yeah.
this is probably a very small
Yeah, I have a lot more stuff
portion
next
of
door. Yeah, it'd
what
blow
you
your
have.
mind. But I mean, this is the most important
Sure.
stuff, I think, to tell the story. But I have other artifacts to enhance each of these stories, so I can make them each one a lot bigger. I've done stuff at this quite a few different places.
What's the stated purpose for those that might not be aware watching? What is the purpose of the Yosemite Climbing Association? What's the goal there?
Well, the goal is to preserve, protect Yosemite climbing and Yosemite climbing history,
Yeah.
and to make it available for public interpretation.
Hmm.
So through that, I mean, it's not real broad, but it's broad enough that I feel that encompasses the past, the present, and the future, and that's where I tie in environmental work with, the cleanup for
Right.
one.
The facelift
Yeah,
event, correct? Can we
exactly.
talk about that for a bit? So
Sure. But
you have the Yosemite Facelift event, like I said at the beginning of the video. That's every year, and it's coming up this year. It was scheduled for September. Is that correct?
yeah, this year is September 23rd through September 27th.
Excellent. And that's
This will
the
be number
the
23.
23rd. Okay. Um, you were interested in doing something like this. You maybe
Well,
as the number of visitors has continued to to
well,
grow. Have we seen more?
I'd actually like to back up a little bit, and I'll
Please, yeah.
finish your question about how this all got started. So John Salathe was a 1940s climber.
Okay.
Swiss climber, started at 46 years old, and he did three big climbs. The first ascent on Half Dome, which nobody really does anymore, but two very popular routes. Well, or big routes, not so popular. Lost Arrow Chimney to the Lost Arrow Tip.
Okay.
So 4.5 day climb. But the one that is popular would be the Steck Salathe, the North Face of Sentinel.
Okay.
Again, a 5 day climb. He made his own pitons, hard steel pitons. He was a blacksmith. But he did these big climbs. He was the first one to plan on spending multiple days on the wall. So he's considered the grandfather of big wall climbing.
Wow.
So he figured out how to engineer himself up a 2,000-foot wall using the tools that he made in his blacksmith shop. So he passed away, and I asked Climbing Magazine, because I wanted to learn more about him, when they were going to do an obituary on him, and they had no plans to, so they asked me to write it, and I'm like, I'm not a writer, but I agreed to it, and I contacted John Flynn, a writer for the Examiner at that time, but then later the Chronicle. He was the travel writer, and he climbed a little bit, and so asked him to do the writing, and I bought $3,000 video camera, didn't know anything about it, and then I cold called all these people that climbed with him down in the Berkeley Hills. Most of them were from Berkeley. That's where that climbing community started rope climbing in Yosemite in 1933, Memorial Day weekend. And so then anyway, so I found out through these interviews with these people, I learned about South A, and John Flynn wrote the article, and they found out that Mike and I did our first 4 El Cap routes together, first El Cap route together. We had pooled our own climbing gear together and put together a little kind of history of the climbing gear as it's changed with our own gear. Just a small, little modest exhibit.
Right.
And they heard about it, and so Mildred Bennett kept inviting me back down and introducing us to more and more climbers in the community, and every time there was like armloads or boxes of stuff.
Here's some gear for you.
Yeah, and so they gave it all to me, and the stuff we have is like the very start in history of Yosemite climbing. And so in a short time, within that year, in the time or 6 months, I suddenly had very important climbing exhibit, very important one. The problem was convincing the Park Service that we needed a space, and so that took 33 years.
33 years to
yeah,
get them,
30
to
years.
work with them to get.
Well, to get the approval to build the exhibit I have in the park right now.
And where can people find that? Where?
I forget what they call it now. The Exploration Center, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the old visitor center.
The visitor center. Is
Yeah,
what
it's just
call it, but
adjacent or next door to the Ansel Adams Gallery, and it's in the back there.
okay.
I added another panel in there during the government shutdown this year, and but anyway, that's open to the public now, and so that's supposed to be a permanent exhibit.
Great.
And
That's good. I know that was an effort.
And once I got that permission, then I built this one simultaneously, because I felt if I built one outside the park, I'd never get a spot in the park, and that's the whole reason.
So that was the order, was getting something in the park.
I had to, yeah. I had no choice.
Gotcha.
So I had to wait 30 years.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, I did roving exhibits, a couple of them in the park. One got picked up by the Autry and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had during the Merced River Plan during the lawsuit. Both sides supported what I was doing,
Sure.
but I was stuck because of the lawsuit.
Right.
And when that got signed, there was one paragraph in there that said for them to work with any kind of climbing interpretation, they have to work with the Yosemite Climbing Association. So I got written up in the master plan. And most people didn't even know it. But,
well, now you're legit.
But they saw, yeah, I know. Yeah, I can point right there. See, you have to give us this space stuff. But at the same time, I'm not quite that way. At the same time I realized that, it was back to this animosity between the climbing community and the Park Service. Yeah. And so a lot of things kind of changed it, but in particular, the one that really broke the ice was the facelift that I organized.
Okay.
And after the first year, I went, aha, now I know how to do it, because both sides liked it.
Everybody supports it.
And they still hated each other, but
sure.
both sides liked it.
They were going to show up.
So how do I bring them together? And so I did through a lot of kind of creative things and time. It used to be horrendous. I'd get chewed out I'd have to sit and answer questions in front of all the division chiefs. Why? What are you going to do if this happened? What are you going to do if that happens?
Insurance and liability.
Well, I had all that stuff, but during the daytime part, they sign up with them and they have insurance, but I had to insure the evening activities and all that stuff. So, I figured it out, and I like challenges. So Anyway, and
They
so
say, as you said, climbers are determined.
yeah, we're
Yeah. Yeah,
stubborn
stubborn, stubborn.
dudes.
I'm trying to be nice over
Guys.
here.
Yeah, no, we are.
Stubborn. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
no, we are. I mean, it's a pretty worthless
But
activity if you think about it
sure,
in a
but it's
lot of
paid
ways.
off the facelift activity, right? I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't mean that was. I meant
sure. No, I mean
climbing was
climbing.
kind of
Yeah, yeah.
worthless.
You get to the top.
I mean, it helps you, but it doesn't do anything for
Yeah.
mankind so much, other than maybe bring people out to preserve these natural areas. So anyway, so the Park Service eventually came around, and eventually I asked them to be partners on it. And so since they're partners now, we partnered together. I formed a nonprofit. So all this stuff helped,
Kind of.
kind of grease the wheels to where,
Right.
yeah, suddenly, oh, okay, this organization, Yosemite Climbing Association, they do a lot of good for the park. They bring in, I mean, Park Service loves it because it's most of the time it's like, oh, they're doing this or they're doing that. It's always negative stuff,
Right.
and so to
Yeah.
have something positive is huge,
Okay.
and so that relationship has changed. Other things that I did that changed it. I mean, I see all these things. First of all, there's more climbers that work for the park and the Park Service, and good climbers, and they built up the rescue team and the climbing management team,
Right.
of which I've helped a lot with.
Okay.
And part of that, I started the what's called the Ask a Climber. Have you ever seen that?
Ask a climber.
Yeah, it's telescopes in El
Yeah.
Capitan.
Oh yeah.
So I
Yeah.
started that program.
Okay.
So I got a grant for it.
Yeah. I
I
took my
think in
kid there. I think we. Yeah.
2009, I think, or
Hmm.
somewhere around then. I started that program, and so I subcontracted with climbers to be there,
So they
and
set
the
up with
only
the scope, and people can come by
and
and see
ask
the guy on
questions,
the wall, and
and they can ask questions and get legitimate answers by somebody that's been up there. What I didn't realize would happen was the climbers that are up there that traditionally in the past wouldn't talk to the park visitor are coming down to the telescopes after they do their climbs and having conversations with people up
okay.
there. So it blew my mind how it brought the communities together. I talked
Right.
about the cliques in high school syndrome that is almost everywhere, and it broke that down quite a bit, and I think that's helped a lot. And then of course the movies, in particular, Free Solo did.
It's
Everybody's,
huge.
they
Yeah.
all ask. Everybody knows who Alex is,
Yeah.
so that's also done. And so Ask a Climber program the last few years, they've been getting days with over 600 people in
Wow.
4 hours. And so it's the most popular interpretive program up there.
Incredible.
And the museum exhibit I did a trial run up there, a couple of them. And those were, oh God, a tremendous amount. Like 3 times as many people as normal came to those that would normally come to that exhibit. So it was really popular.
Yeah.
And so I think all of those things have sort of helped. And then now I formed or acquired a general agreement with the Park Service, so we're a park partner now
Okay.
and stuff.
Okay.
There's all these little steps that
Yeah. Go.
I know, like, yeah, I'm like working my way up the fish ladder,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah.
And but I've always kind of been kind of good at that, and I try to find things that benefit everybody. If that makes sense, and not just two parties, but everybody.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You seem to
Yeah.
be somebody who not only has incredible history in the park in terms of climbing, but also the ability to bring people together, and whether they disagree or agree or different things. And so the facelift. I'm not saying that everyone dislikes each other. Facelift, of course, but it's a
No,
huge
that's
event,
totally changed,
right?
and now the
And I
park,
would say thanks
yeah,
a lot
oh,
to your efforts.
yeah, and there's climbers coffee now, and so the climbing community feels like they can approach, law and
A
well,
lot,
the
right?
climbing stewards and climbing, management program and the
There's a good
rangers there.
relationship there in
Yeah,
general.
like it never was.
I'm sure there's the random
Oh,
outcast
just
guy that
like,
shows up and wants to
yeah,
base jump off or bring his drone
but
or whatever, but
but
that's
before.
the
Yeah, the difference
exception.
is before when there was somebody like that, there's always somebody like that. You're right. But before, the whole community was blamed for it. And now it's like, oh, that's just a crazy
Yeah.
party, your
He doesn't
community.
really represent
And
us
well,
at that
yeah,
level.
exactly.
Right.
And so they know that now. And so, yeah, it's not perfect, but it's so much better than it was. And I've seen it change a lot in the 50 years. I mean, we used to have to hide all
Yeah,
often.
in caves.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Well, yeah, we had a
I'm
lot of
kidding. I'm
caves.
kidding.
No, we did. We had our caves we'd smoke out in
Sure,
too. So,
sure. Yeah, yeah.
but yeah.
So facelift,
Hmm.
largest event, huge cleanup. Maybe a lot of people in Mariposa aren't aware, but I understand that there's, in addition to the official Yosemite event, there's localized ones too.
Oh yeah, we've
Um,
been doing it for about 3 years. This year, April 11th is the first one we're doing this year in
and that's here in
Mariposa.
Mariposa, right? So,
Correct.
so this podcast, typically this show is typically been targeted for Mariposa folk for now. Someday I'll make it
Yeah,
big, but
and
for now it's Mariposa. And so April, say that again.
April 11th, and we
April
do
11th.
a 1 day cleanup, and then we have something going on afterwards too. I'm not sure of the whole schedule
Sure.
yet, but anyway, looking forward to that one. And you just meet here, and we go out and clean up trash and
Excellent.
have some raffle prizes
Great way to
or
give back to the
drawing
community.
prizes. We're supposed to call them.
Fantastic.
And
Yep, yep. Excellent. So
yeah,
there's local ones, and then the big event is
correct.
a multi-day event. There's big sponsors, big companies
Yeah,
come in and
5
help
days.
support. And so, if somebody wanted to, if someone was here in the area or was watching this and wanted to get involved, wanted to participate,
Well,
they just show up on that day and.
yeah, they can show up, and yeah, if they do want to come, they might want to work on accommodations as soon as they can.
Oh, I'm sure, right.
Yeah, it's hard to get anyway any kind of camping in here. And that is slated for September 23rd through September 27th this year. And we also have one in Groveland, I think right before, but it could be right after. And we do one in Oakhurst too
Right.
as well. So we're just doing 4 a year. We've done them in Mammoth. We've done them one year. We did them all over the place, but it darn near bankrupted us.
Gotcha.
So,
Well, I'm very grateful. I'm sure the
yeah.
community is better off for those efforts locally, and then of course Yosemite 1.2 million pound
Yeah,
trash
yeah.
is
Well, a lot of that
incredible.
was asphalt and
It's trash.
concrete,
It's still
but
junk.
yeah, it
Yeah,
was
why
heavy.
not?
And see, the awesome thing is being able to work with the Park Service quite often. We can use a truck or something like that. I mean, I don't drive it, but they'll go there and we'll load it up, and
Right.
then we find and we fill up a truck with asphalt. They can go and recycle it and then drive it straight to the recycling
Good
yard.
partnership. It sounds like.
And so yeah,
Very cool.
so that's been amazing part of it, and we try to make it fun, and I try to make it inclusive. So everybody, young and old, all social classes, whoever, I
Yeah.
don't care who you are.
Come help out.
That they tell us that national parks belong to the people. I'll tell you what, it doesn't really feel like it's your park until you're up there cleaning it. So it's a really special feeling, and
Right.
everybody knows it.
Sense of ownership.
So
Right.
yeah,
You're getting in there. and doing
temporary
that type of-
anyway, but
sure.
yeah. But you just really feel like you're doing the right thing, and that's what's so special about it is, yeah, and that feeling kind of builds up for the 5 days. So by the
Fantastic.
weekend, everybody, you can just feel this, I don't know, like a happiness bouncing
Yeah.
off the walls. It's
Accomplishment.
really, yeah, it's really good
Absolutely.
energy. So
What about there's another event, I understand, the Yosemite Film Festival and Storyteller Summit?
yeah,
Can you
that's
share about
new this year.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're taking submissions now for film submissions. This is all brand new, and that's for June 25th through the 28th. And we'll be posting the schedule
More
as we
info to
get,
come,
yeah,
I
and more,
guess.
yeah, a
Sure.
lot more
Yeah.
info to come. But I'm kind of excited. I hear we already have 30 films
Wow.
that have submitted, or we have a choice of 30 films.
Right.
And not all have been submitted, but pretty soon we will.
Yeah.
And including a couple new, what you call it, documentaries coming out. One on the airplane crash,
Okay.
and,
Yeah.
and that should be interesting. That's 90 minutes or full length film, and another one on Tom Frost, who started Chenard Equipment years ago with Yvonne Chenard there.
Okay.
And anyway, he was he designed the equipment. He was a mechanical engineer and drawer. And so he drew a lot of the equipment that Yvonne Chenard made. Yvonne Chenard, eventually they changed it to Great Pacific Ironworks, and then they split up into Black Diamond and what is now Patagonia. So,
Gotcha. Wow.
so
Incredible.
big thing. So a
Big.
lot of climbers too. It's amazing how many of them have really kind of productive lives elsewhere besides the climbing. Not me so much.
Right, sure.
I just never. I didn't have the energy. But anyways, there's a lot of Nobel Prize winners and things like that. I think there's 2 or 3 physicists that won
Wow.
Nobel Prizes
Okay.
and stuff.
Sounds like there's some excellent opportunities to get involved. A lot of community outreach with the facelift events and educational things. If somebody lives here in town, right? Obviously, I'm
Hmm.
sure you attract tourism, of course, and some locals, but I bet there's a lot of locals who've never stepped foot in here.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's going to
Okay,
change.
yeah,
You're
it's
right.
one of the reasons why I'm here.
Well, I went to this awards dinner the other night, that the Chamber of Commerce
Mhm.
awards dinner. And anyway, it was cool. It's
You won
Mariposa
something there, right?
Slice. Yeah, we got the best nonprofit of the county, but I don't know how many there are. But
Sure.
anyway, it was
There's,
really
yeah.
nice and to be recognized. And I got to meet a lot of the people. And you're right, a lot of them haven't been up there.
They
And
probably were sheepish. Oh,
yeah,
get up there and check it out, right?
yeah. Well, like for example, the owner of the Smoking Oaks or whatever it's called.
Barbecue, yeah.
Yeah, I met him, and and I go, oh shoot, I haven't eaten there yet, but I plan on it. And he goes, well, that's all right. I haven't
I
been
will
up
your
to the
museum.
museum, so
That's how it works, right?
But
Or there's contractors or construction company and use the other guy, and not the
yeah,
it's one of
well,
those things.
and well, our main problem, I think, is that we're at the 4-way stop, so people are on their way to Yosemite, and they just start to go through the stop sign or just past it, and they go, oh wow,
Sure,
there's the museum. I got to see it later, and we might not be open when they come back
right.
later, or you forget about it. But also, Mariposa, it's a gold mining town, ranching town, completely different gateway to Yosemite, but not necessarily known as a climbing town. And what people don't realize too, climbing history up here, if you don't even count the Native Americans, it started here in 1869. So it's almost as old as the gold rush.
Right,
And,
right.
and the town doesn't really know that. So I invite anybody that lives in Mariposa to come in here and learn a little bit about it, and I'll let them know. But there's a lot to be, I think, kind of proud of.
It's
And,
incredidible. I mean,
and
I'm
Yosemite.
one of the guys, first timer here, and even as somebody whose dad was very into rock climbing, and he passed away a long time ago, but his rope,
Hmm.
a friend had it made into like a rug
Oh,
type thing,
cool.
just beautiful, and so it's a little embarrassing for me and for my brothers if they haven't been here, get in here, but
Well, they will
yeah,
eventually.
we'll
And
get them in here.
you'd be surprised how many we get foreign visitors. So
Okay,
Yosemite,
tourism.
and part of it, Yosemite is among the climbing world famous, world famous around the world. So it's a uh, it's prideful, or to be the first person from your country to climb El Cap or
Right.
Half
Oh, I
Dome.
see. Right.
So suddenly they're in the record books and amongst the climbing community. It's like, oh, so and so, they're the
Yeah.
first ones, and so there's a lot more people kind of notice Yosemite than just Americans,
Right. Of course. Yeah.
climbing's bigger amongst the international community, in particular Europe. First of all, it's had a longer history there. It's left over from the wars and God since Napoleon, really, when they
Right.
hoisted cannons up to the passes and stuff.
Yeah.
And so climbing's had a huge history, and also they live there, so you get used to it. So you got to deal with it. And so I don't know. It's just it and Yosemite has turned into like a training ground for climbers around the
Okay.
world. And the reason for that is we have good weather. It's
Hmm.
close to the road. The rock quality is good. And there's a rescue team. They have cell service
Yeah.
now. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of reasons. But they come here and sort of test their skills on some of our famous routes to see how they hold up against the other climbers. And speed climbing in particular
Okay.
is here. And so people go really fast. El Cap's been climbed in under 2 hours now, the nose.
And how long was the first time? It was
47 days over
47 days.
a year and a half,
Yeah,
or
because up
16
up and
months.
down. Right.
Yeah,
Right. Into 2 hours.
yeah, under 2 hours, and
Incredible.
so this speed climbing, people are coming here to do that and to learn hard aid climbing. The tools were invented here, for hard aid climbing, and all this stuff. So,
And some of the tools we can see here. If
oh
someone wants to
yeah,
look at come to the museum,
yeah, we
we
got
can
the
look at
whole
those.
evolution of all the tools, and
Incredible.
you can see how much they've changed, how much safer, how much lighter, all that stuff. But after coming here and practicing, then you can go climb in more remote, difficult areas around the world, more dangerous, where weather is a factor, and speed climbing makes it safer
Because you got to get up there before the.
before the next storm comes
Yeah.
in, or
Okay.
before maybe it warms up and suddenly you're dealing with avalanche
Right.
above
Yeah.
you. So
Right.
the faster you can travel in those dangerous mountain areas, the safer it is.
And we
So
can do that
so
easier
people
here in
learn
California.
the rock skills here without the inherent
Right.
dangers. So
Gotcha. Gotcha.
so
And it's because of the trailblazing that occurred by a lot of the men and women
I,
that are featured here in the museum.
oh, correct.
The new tools, the designs, the even just the science. Maybe I would use the word of evaluating and mapping out a route and looking at the time. All of that, I'm sure, has been informative to the global climbing community.
Yeah, in particular, granite and crack climbing.
Okay.
And then now Yosemite's having a resurgence in bouldering. Okay, people are going climbing
Yeah.
bigger boulders, no ropes, or they just use a bunch of pads. So there's a whole community that's pushing the limits there in Yosemite, and in some cases slacklining. Some of
Yeah.
them,
I've seen that
you
walking.
know, complemented it with slacklining as well. And then speed climbing, people are trying to do routes faster or more routes in a day. They have what's called the quad now,
Okay.
which
What's
is
that?
that's climbing in less than 24 hours. They did just recently. They did what is it? Half Dome, Mount Watkins, the Column, I think it is, and El Cap, all in 24
24
hours.
hours.
So it's four major walls in
Wow.
24 hours. And for a while it was, the triple crown.
Triple. Yeah.
Triple crown just got done by first female parties
Gotcha.
and been
Gotcha.
done by some guys. And then last year, two guys they added one more wall. They did the column on top of it. So, and that's the quad. And I have the shoes next door
I love it.
and stuff. So anyway, so they're adding more and more and trying to climb them faster, and it's sort of a dangerous game
Yeah.
because you're not putting a lot of gear in, you're moving fast, and you're getting tired. So
Taking some risks maybe
and
to
then
make that speed. Yeah.
and then the other thing that people are working on, some people are just going up there and they want to free climb all the way to the top of El Cap. So there's a lot of different ways you can free climb El Capitan. Most of them are very extreme, and more and more people are doing those as
Yeah.
well. So
Incredible. So the sport's going to continue to grow. It's going to
yeah,
continue to
I found
push the limits. You thought that maybe there was limits, and they would keep, or
there's
maybe I thought that at least. And
well, I think each generation has its own golden age. I would say,
yeah,
that I mean, when everything was unclimbed, that was definitely a golden age. It's like you had your choice. And those guys in the 30s, then Salafay comes along and climbs some of the bigger formations and shows what could be done.
mm-hmm.
And then people kind of did longer and harder things, and then a lot of climbers or historians would consider the 1960s the golden age because that's when all the elk cap routes started getting
Right.
done and things like that. But then Lynn Hill, right there, she's free climbed the nose, and I got her shoes right there.
Mm.
And she was the first one to free climb the nose, which means she climbed it with just her feet and hands and the ropes just in case she fell.
Right.
So in the perfect free climb, you could have done it without a rope, right?
Right.
And
In
that's
theory,
called
yeah.
free soloing, and
Right.
that's what Alex did. And so somebody's done that now. So there's always going to be something maybe we don't even think about that people are going to
Sure.
do. I have
Yeah.
no idea what it is, and it's kind
They'll
of
figure it out.
yeah. So I think there's like this golden age with every generation, and if you look at it, they're trying to just get that same sense of adventure that these people did in the very first days. Then another generation comes along and gets that same commitment to adventure by doing something a little
New.
harder, a
Yeah.
little
Pushing
different.
it more. Yeah.
And so I would argue there's a golden age every decade.
Yeah. I would agree.
Yeah.
For the new climber or someone who's new, something you said a while back now, stuck out to me. You talked about um, Vietnam when you were younger and just the happenings in the world that were very distressing or concerning. And you mentioned how, even this generation, the younger generation now, could be facing something similar. Um, how, if someone was interested in climbing, um, where would they get started? Is there options to learn to start? Like, where do you start?
Well, it would depend on where you lived.
Let's
For
say up
one,
here in Mariposa. Let's say someone's interested in getting involved.
well, Mariposa would be, I mean, first of all, a good start would be to hang out at the climbing museum a little bit
Yeah,
and learn. I mean, you can learn stuff here, how to place gear, that kind of stuff. But also, if you don't have a driver's license, but you maybe could ride the bus into the park.
right.
There's bouldering there if you have a pair of shoes.
Just starting.
Yeah, I mean, go up and you can learn a lot by watching people, but also I read books. So I read stuff, I listened to people, and I went out and climbed. So you can do all of that. If you have the money, you can take climbing lessons, but
Okay.
it's expensive.
Sure.
So I don't think, most
Right.
people that live here probably aren't able to go that route. So they got to find a mentor or learn on their own. Another option too is if you're maybe live in the city or something and not so close to the mountains, would be a climbing gym. So I go
Right.
down there, and that's a great way to just kind of get the movement. It's different than climbing on the rock, but
And it's exercise. You're
a
building up.
lot of those people that are down there, especially the older generations down there, or besides the high school kids, are actually climbing outdoors too.
Mm.
So they're doing both. So that might be a way. And there are climbing festivals you could go and
Got it.
but it would
Plenty of
help.
opportunity.
There's opportunity there, but you're going to have to kind of make them a little bit, and by learning as much as you can first, and then those
And
opportunities
you
will
you think it would
open
help?
up.
Do you think it would help this generation who might be wrestling to get away to unplug a little bit and
I would think so. I would hope they could see the attraction to it, and I think many of them do. I feel sorry for them because I feel like they're kind of especially now, in a similar, or the potential for a similar situation where you got a war looming over you. You got the Cold War where, okay, we're going to do a drill today in class. All right, we got a nuclear bomb coming. Get under your desk. We used to do that, and then
right?
then it's earthquakes.
Yeah, yeah.
Now it's school shootings,
Right,
and
sure.
so that stuff, it gives a kid PTSD, in
Yeah.
my opinion,
Yeah, it can cause all
and
that.
that's where climbing and the outdoors, and it doesn't have to be climbing. I mean, climbing can give you PTSD if you're scared of heights and you're
Fair.
going to
Yeah.
be terrified.
Right.
I don't want to do that to anybody
But
too.
is it for the right person or persons? It
Yeah,
could be a great
but
outlet
but
to.
I think the outdoors, no matter what you do in the outdoors, is essential for good mental health.
I think it's interesting. I think there's a lot of people who might live in this county or this area in Mariposa who would be sheepish to admit that maybe they don't go to the park at all very often or haven't in years. And it's kind of like people who might live by the beach and you go to the beach and you're like, this is incredible. I'd come here every day. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I came a month ago or
No,
something like that. It'd be the same thing. So, um, yeah, it's always been interesting to me. But get out there, get in the mountains, and so um, this climbing museum, excuse me, is open. Does it have some set hours that we
yeah,
can share?
10 to 4 every day, but Monday we're closed Mondays.
Okay, 10 to 4, Tuesday through Sundays, closed on Mondays. Great opportunities to get involved. Anything that you wanted to share that I didn't touch on or
Well,
didn't
we
ask
have a
today?
membership program too. So if anybody wants to help us, we are a nonprofit, and
Yeah,
obviously especially now, it's a real struggle for nonprofits to keep their programs going. And we have a retail shop too. So there's a lot of ways to help. But we do a lot of services now. You can sign up for a weekly news brief. It's called weekly letter especially if you're interested in climbing, you might learn about up and coming climber. There's an interview of somebody,
yeah,
climber, every week, and then I've been writing once a week to adding to it at the end, sort of a historical story of some adventure I had with somebody or something like that.
yeah.
And so I've been trying to write those down. I've already done like 25 of them or something, so I'm
Sure.
starting
I'm
to
sure
run
there's.
out of stories.
Well,
But
I'm sure there's more up there.
yeah,
Yeah,
anyway, so I'm finding that's kind of fun, but we offer that free. We have a newsletter, or if you're in a position to donate to, we
right.
that's always
Of
helpful.
course. Yeah.
Otherwise,
come in and pay an admittance fee, which helps support
the other
work that
thing,
you're doing.
yeah, and the other thing we have an event space that a lot of people don't know about.
You have an
So,
event space.
yeah, so if somebody wants to, it'll hold about 50 people sitting. So, if somebody needs to rent something like that, it helps us pay for the rent.
Right.
And
And that's here.
yeah, it's right next door in the building next door. I have a big screen TV that I put on the wall so you can show movies or Zooms or whatever. We use it. Yeah. I'm not real good with that IT stuff, but
That's all right.
but anyway, we have that available, and we'd love to have the community up here a little bit more, and it doesn't have to be for climbing. We had I think some sort of seminar there yesterday
that's what I thought.
I think on native plants or something
Okay,
like that.
yeah.
But we've had yoga classes in there. I did a presentation in there. We've had Caber Dave did a presentation. We've had another guy did it. We've had quite a few, and Beth Rodden did a book signing and
Fantastic.
stuff. So
plenty of ways to support the work.
Yeah, or if somebody
Yosemite
needs,
Climbing Association.
yeah, or we want to be involved with the community too. So
Absolutely. Well, I'm convinced.
it doesn't have to be climbing.
I'm going to sign up to be a member for sure. I
Cool,
almost did it
thank
last
you.
night, but I didn't get around to it. But this has been excellent. Last question for you that I ask everybody that's in the area. You live in El Portal, correct?
No, I live in Mariposa.
You live here in Mariposa?
I live a block
forgive me.
away.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
right here in town.
Yeah,
What?
I'm getting lazier.
Yeah.
Actually, I like it. I wasn't sure
Sure.
how it, but I like being able to walk anywhere in town.
Yeah.
And I'm near a store now. I'm not spending all my time driving.
Yeah,
So,
that's a big
and
deal.
plus, I'm only a block away from the museum. I got a lot of projects, and I'll show you out
maybe
back
we can
when
take
you
a look after this.
Yeah, it's pretty
What
rad.
the question that I always ask everyone is, what is the thing that you love most? What is it that you love the most about living here in this area?
In Mariposa? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in the area, I love Yosemite. Mariposa works for me because I don't have to climb every day. I wish we had a climbing gym, or I wish I had one at my house someday. I got the holds, yeah. But anyways, what I like about it is an hour in each direction, 3 directions. I got good climbing. I can go to Jamestown, and there's an area I helped develop years ago, but that's since there's climbing all over it on Table Mountain there, called the Grotto and the Gold Wall and Jailhouse Rock there. So it's premier climbing there.
Jamestown.
And then if you go on to the east of Oakhurst, there's premier granite climbing south of Yosemite, like almost, if you took out the big walls, the giant walls, there's probably just as much rock, though. If they, El Cap and Half Dome are shorter, there's just as much rock south of Yosemite as there is in Yosemite, and it's all exceptional climbing. So I'm having fun going there.
Yeah.
And what I like about there is that a lot of areas you can camp anywhere. So you can camp and you don't have to pay for it. It's kind of like the east side.
Yeah.
I like the east side a lot too. So I like the access Mariposa gives me to areas, but also I can couple that with a comfortable place to live, a warm house, couple little restaurants where I can go out and hear music and I can walk to it.
Yeah.
And that to me is huge, just to not be spending all my time driving.
Right. Absolutely. Well, this has been excellent and informative. I'm inspired to maybe I'll get back up climbing a little bit myself someday.
Yeah, you should.
Yosemite Climbing Association, Ken's here. The museum is here 10 to 4, Tuesdays through Sunday, right here at the 4-way stop, 49 and 140. Come check it out. It's amazing. It's really incredible. And I'm super grateful for the time, and thank you so much. And those of you watching, thanks again for joining us on this episode of Behind the Fence. New episodes usually weekly. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Please, if you enjoyed this, give it a like, give it a share. Share it with someone who loves this area as much as I do, as you do. And until then, we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.